And a good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome on in to the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne, and we are powered each and every week by our friends at Ameren and Gray Bar, and we are driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura. Claibs, you were back behind the microphone yesterday after taking the last road trip off down to see the Cardinals lose the first to the Padres last night. It's going to be a rough last 5 weeks of the season, probably.
Oh, there's no doubt it's going to be rough for a lot of different reasons. You know, you have injuries, you have guys you're trying to get a look at. It's truly a period of evaluation. But with that said, you have players who want to play. There were two important players that have let Oliver Marmol know, hey, look, we don't want any more days off. Let's just play. And so you still have a commitment. You still have the responsibility of turning in a professional effort, especially against teams that are in postseason contention, whether it's in this next road trip. So you're going to see three teams on the next road trip that are all in postseason contention in Atlanta, in Baltimore, Cincinnati. You're going to have some other teams. Philadelphia is going to come through St. Louis. You're going to face them. You're going to face Milwaukee at the end of the year. That's an important series. So I think you're going to see all hands on deck with regard to that, because let's face it, Joe, we've seen everything there is to see in the minor leagues. Yeah. I mean, there isn't anybody there that's going to help you this year. There may be somebody who needs more work that can help you maybe sometime next year. But as far as waiting on somebody to come up and make their major league debut because they're that good, that ship has already sailed.
Yeah, the one that I'm going to be watching every fifth day now is Drew Rom. We've seen two starts out of him. I liked what I saw out of him in that first start, and I thought the defense let him down. I mean, he should have been out of that first inning and saved himself about 15, 20 pitches, and didn't happen. Defense couldn't get the third out for him. And then you saw against the Phillies, yeah, he took the loss, but he still pitched really well in his second career start in the big league level.
Yeah, he gave him a legitimate chance. But, you know, here's the one thing in both his outings. The first one I get, you know, it's new. He's got a family. It's a distraction. Second one, he pitched out of trouble when he was in it. You know, after the first pitch of the game, he's already down, but he gave his team a chance to climb back in it. He's a guy that obviously you want to take a longer look at, and we're going to see that for the rest of the year. But my issue with him will be, A, can he give you more than 5 innings with less than 100 pitches? B, can he pitch out of trouble when he's in a jam? And C, does he know how to mix up his pitches? Now, some of that comes with having the right catcher that's in a feel on what this guy has and what he doesn't have, and going through your scouting report and knowing what guys have tendencies of doing. But when it's all said and done, we have to have guys that have to be able to pitch beyond the fifth inning and feel good about it. And really, in my opinion, I think because you don't have a bullpen to speak of, you better have some guys who know how to pitch beyond the sixth or seventh inning, because that's going to be one of the issues that you're going to have to address. And let's be clear on a couple of things. When you go into free agency, and you will, you better have a sales pitch, because you better tell that pitcher, this is what our bullpen is going to look like. This is what our defense is going to look like. This is who you're going to be throwing to. Those are three things you better be able to tell whoever you're recruiting what those three things are going to be to give him comfort in thinking this is the right place for him. But don't worry about the money. These guys want to know, do they have a chance? Because the guy who just wants to worry about getting paid, you don't want him, because he'll pull the shoot on you in a minute, and then all of a sudden you're stuck.
I'm glad you brought that up with the impending free agency, because the last two games you saw the two guys that are supposed to be 1A and 1B on that Cardinals list. You would think they're 1A and 1B on the Cardinals list. They should be 1A and 1B on everybody's list that needs pitching. And Aaron Nola and Blake Snell, back-to-back nights. Aaron Nola will go out there, he'll give you 6 or 7 innings. Snell will go out there, he'll give you 5 or 6. From what you've seen out of those two the last two nights, what's your assessment of the top two prospects out there in free agency?
Well, a good question that I think the bigger question is, what is your philosophy? You pitch to contact, you swing and miss, or you have the belief we don't want our guys seeing the batting order for a third time. I think that you have to ask that question before you pick on which one of these guys you want. Nola workhorse in this day and age. When you think about the 200 innings plus, gives up a lot of home runs, but that ballpark does produce a lot of home runs. Snell is a guy who's always been trained to go no more than 6. I mean, when you think about him in Tampa, go back to the World Series where they pulled him and the guy was dealing. San Diego's a little bit different where he's gone a little bit longer, not much. So when you have that scenario, you have to say, all right, again, I go back to this, your bullpen. You have to have 8 guys in that bullpen to say, all right, Snell, you can only go 6. We got it. Nola, you can go 7. We have it. Don't worry about it. But when you only have 2 guys, and right now, the only legitimate guy who's proven himself to be consistent is JoJo Romero. This is a guy 2 months ago, you were like, uh-oh, here we go. So whatever he's done to turn his career around, you have to bottle that and hope that some other people will be more consistent. So I'm of the belief that the bullpen is a complete teardown and you have to start over again. And how you do that in one off season, well, we're going to find out.
Yes, Padres and Cardinals, game 2 of the series tonight. What'd you think of Fernando Tatis's cleats last night?
You know what? How does a person have that sort of time to do something like that? Just so it hopefully gets.
He's not sitting in the locker room putting the clippings on there. I mean, he just tasked somebody else to do it.
But isn't there more aren't there more productive things in your life than that? Because personally, I could give less than a tinker's damn about it. It's so irrelevant to me that a guy would go out of his way to do that, to get a 3-second TV shot, knowing that somebody's going to photograph. Who cares? It's what's wrong with the game. We get so enamored with the most irrelevant things that take place. It really is.
I would have thought that you would have enjoyed knowing that you also covered his dad. I thought that you would have.
It means nothing to me.
Also, being a guy of fashion the way that you are too. I thought,
but he's not. Have you seen some of the things he wears? He's not of a guy of fashion.
I have not. No, outside of a baseball game, I have not. No.
As we talk on fashion, I'm trying to think who the best dressed athletes are. Certainly not baseball. Football is a caricature. Hockey probably is the best dressed. Well, hockey is like this. Either you're very well dressed or you have no idea what you put on. The NBA, there are certain guys. There used to be a time the NBA would rock, okay? You took pride in walking into the arena dressed a certain way. Now you have guys that come in looking like, okay, once I leave here, I'm going to work the circus for a while. But Tatis would be a fashion disappointment with regard to the shoes. So sorry to break your heart.
Who's the best dressed on the Cardinal roster right now?
Miles Michaelis by a
Miles Michaelis. That would have been my guess. That would have been who I would have.
It's Miles Michaelis, and everybody else is playing for the bronze medal. It's nothing close. Nothing.
Even when he goes bolo tie, even when he.
But you know what? It's a theme behind it. He's wearing a bolo tie to Texas. He's not wearing it to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Miles Michaelis, best dressed guy. I can't even tell you who was even close. Jack Flaherty tried, but then he'd hit a wall. Paul DeYoung tried. They made attempts. Tommy Pham Tommy Pham wore a shirt and tie and playing everywhere they went. He dressed like an old school pro. Ollie Marmol dresses well as a manager. I've seen some other managers, and you're like, how many more times do you think you can get away with that, man?
By the way, speaking of Paul DeYoung, Blue Jays DFA'd him, and he went to the Giants. So I mean, I guess regardless of what happens, Cardinals win that trade because he was only there in Toronto for about a week and a half. I mean,
who do we get out of it?
I don't know, but it's got to be. I mean, you got to say you want it no matter what, right?
Well, I mean, wait a minute. That guy's not in the big leagues yet.
You got something back for it, though.
But we don't know what it is.
They didn't get anything out of DeYoung. They got one hit out of DeYoung. So
we may not get anything out of this guy. So let's hold off on grading trades at this point because, again, I look at some of these trades, and here's the one that really kind of rubs me. The Sean Murphy deal. Oakland got table scraps for him.
Mm-hmm.
We had table scraps to give him, but we did. But
Depending on the reports that you read of what Oakland wanted.
yeah, but I don't believe that.
Okay.
And here's why: because you could have easily said, "This is the list of untouchables. You can have anybody else," and I guarantee you, some of the guys the Cardinals would have made available in that deal are better than the players that the Oakland A's have. So don't tell me that the only way we could have got that player was because they only wanted Wynn and Walker.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get a Wynn and Walker comps with the teams they dealt with. So what makes you think we had to do it?
But what if it was Newt Barr and Donovan?
I think probably you would have been able to part with one of those two.
Okay.
You know, I mean, again, the Cardinals have a lot of spare parts laying around. Okay, a lot of spare parts that would have been sufficed of that deal.
At this point, right now, I mean, I know when we look at the deal and you compare the numbers that Sean Murphy has put up this year, which are really good, and for April, I think he was the top player in all of baseball and offensively in April. But you look at where their numbers are now, Wilson Contreras has not disappointed offensively and has really kind of come on these past few months and shown why the Cardinals went out and spent on him. It wasn't to be, the defensive replacement that we lost with Yachty. It's to be another bat in the middle of the order, and I think that he has proven that he could hit with the best of them with his numbers.
He's a good hitter for a catcher. I wouldn't argue with you on that. But I think as we've learned how our pitching suffered dramatically, I think what and I've said this to you and I've said it before, had Andrew Kisner and Ivan Herrera given us what this year, had they given us this, what we've seen this year, last year, Wilson Contreras wouldn't be here. Because you know what you would have done? You would have looked in another area to find another bat. Okay? Because your catching would have been solid. Remember this. If you have to worry about your catcher or your shortstop hitting a lot, you have bigger issues than your lineup.
Since July 1st, Wilson Contreras hitting .336 with an OPS of .986. So since July 1st has been the top hitter in the,
been solid.
In the Cardinal lineup.
Been very solid. Again, I'm not taking away his offense.
No,
not taking away from that at all. I'm looking at just a little bit more of a complete catcher. Now, some would say he's improved that. And you know what? For the most part, he probably has. Which takes me to this. You're stuck with him, and I think you have to give him another year. I mean, you can look at how many free agents that signed that first year, and it has not worked out. It has not worked out, and I think he can be in that category. So I'm of the belief that he comes back, he's going to be better prepared. He's going to be better understanding. I think he'll be okay. Okay, he won't be Yachty, but he's better than what Yachty was at the end of his career.
This is the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren and Gray Bar, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. It was about 10 days ago. I was out on the front lines there with the folks at Ameren, getting up there with the linesmen and climbing up real high on those poles.
That's high enough, right?
So
there.
Getting up there.
You don't want to go any higher.
Like the press box at the Nationals ballpark. That was that high up, going up there and just seeing what it was like in the life of a linesman. Videos coming your way, big files. Hey, we got got to get those up, working on that for claibsonline.com, but you will see that here soon. To just what we did that day with the folks out at Ameren, Illinois, and appreciate all of the work that they do, whether last week working out there in the heat or the storms that we had the month before. The day I was out there working, wearing what I was wearing, which is what they put on. I mean, it was 80 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. Could not imagine the work and how miserable it was for them last week when temperatures were where it felt like 110 degrees all throughout the St. Louis area.
We tip our caps to those people, men and women, who put themselves in that position because, like you and I, Joe, we couldn't do it.
Nope.
And I always respect people who can do things I can't do, which means most of the world. can find something better than what I can do. But point being, they are truly trained professionals in what they do, and you learn firsthand how challenging it can be. And you don't learn this trade overnight, and the commitment that they've made is something that we should all appreciate.
We will take a quick break, come back with more baseball talk right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura here on ClaibsOnline.com.
Smith corks one into right, down the line. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
Breeze hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
And Hernandez into left field. Hit number 3,000.
For the first time since 1982, St. Louis has a World Series winner.
On Sunday, September 3rd, take home an exclusive Cardinals Moment flag presented by Air National Guard. Visit cardinals.com/promotions.
Back here, it is the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois and Gray Bar, and driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Claibs, a lot of baseball talk to come this week on Claibs Online, Daily Cards Live, each and every day. And, of course, Good Nightingale with Bob Nightingale, brought to you by our friends over in Alton, Illinois at Fast Eddie's Bon Air.
Fast Eddie's Bon Air, coldest beer, peel and eat shrimp, Fat Eddie Burger, great entertainment. Only have to be 21 and over to go. But, if you're looking for something good and something fun, it's a great gathering place is what I would say. And you can make it a date night, a casual date night. But one thing is for sure, you're going to have a good time. That's why they maintain the tradition for so many years of people going over there. And, when Eddie and I go out, and we were out last week, and I introduced him, said, wait a minute, Fast Eddie? I mean, it's kind of like one of the local institutions. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I would certainly recommend you check it out as soon as possible. Again, you only have to be over 21, the coldest beer, peel and eat shrimp. And I mean, the prices, when you think about the price of beef and shrimp these days, you're still going to get a very fair bargain, a lot of selection, great service. It's truly a family business that you should be part of. And check it out. Make sure you tell them we sent you. And who knows what happens after that. You won't be thrown out if you tell them you know us, but you'll have a good time.
Claibs, one of the things you guys will surely talk about over the next few weeks on Good Nightingale, you'll be handicapping some of these award races, the MVP races, all throughout baseball. And right now in the National League, it's a 2-horse race. With
Do you really think so?
The way Freddie Freeman's been hitting, I mean, he has put himself in the conversation, has he not?
You obviously haven't been watching Mookie Betts lately.
Okay. Do you think they're going to steal each other's? I mean, do you think he is going to?
Here's the other thing.
Has Mookie Betts put himself in the conversation with Freddie Freeman and Ronald Acuna
There's
Jr.?
no doubt.
Okay.
And I'll tell you another one. The Braves first baseman,
Matt Olson.
Matt Olson's had 40 home runs. He's driven over 100 runs. He's on the best team in baseball. He's
quieted down a little bit, I think, the last couple weeks.
I don't think it's a 2-horse race. I think what Mookie Betts is putting on right now is something we're all starting to pay attention to. And it doesn't make a difference whether it's at home or on the road. Acuna has been very consistent. There's no doubt about it. Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman. But I think those three are certainly in the mix, and I think Olson is right there with them because, it's what you've done the entire season. I think sometimes we make a mistake in saying, well, he had a good September. No, wait a minute. What about the other months? And while Mookie got out to a slow start, he has gradually improved. What is he, 35 home runs for a guy who's played multiple positions this season? Freddie Freeman is a picture of consistency, and Acuna is doing things we just don't see on a regular basis. Now, I'll tell you this. I admire him a lot because those two fans, if they'd have rolled up on me last night, one of them would have been in intensive care, and one of them probably wouldn't have made it. Okay.
It is. I mean,
I'm appalled by what I saw last night.
And on top of that, what happened at the south side of Chicago this weekend, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what? Here's what they have to do. If you're going to work, you can no longer have guys who worked as ushers around the field, give them that position if they have just been there for a long time. I'm not telling them they need to have a martial arts class and training, but they need to be able to get on the field and apprehend whatever fool that rolls out there and get him down until the police arrive. I don't need a
know if
60-year-old man
I
trying
was
to
gonna
chase
say,
a
I don't know
guy.
if people are applying for the job that are capable.
Well,
of
you know
doing
what?
that.
If you're a young guy, you want to be an usher, come on down. We got a spot for you. But I don't want to see a 60 or 65-year-old man trying to chase a guy, and then all of a sudden he has a header. But what happened last night was a gross breach of security. Somebody's head should roll on it. A fan should never, ever get that close to a player at a baseball
two
game.
fans
Yeah, two of them.
up there, and it's speaking of the South Side of Chicago. I mean, you're very lucky that I haven't seen any reports on those two fans if there was something mentally wrong with them. But you're very lucky. All they did was go up and they wanted to hug Ronald Acuna, not what happened to the Royals first base coach about 15 years ago in the on the South Side of Chicago, where you had two fans go and jump him in that situation.
Yeah, it's sad, and we see it, and every sport's got a problem. You watch a football game, especially exhibition football game, they're brawling in the stands. You got hockey fans that from one team to another, which is why some cities don't want visiting teams fans coming. NBA, you have your moments, but you don't see it as much, but it does happen.
I'm shocked that with the
player and fans, fans and fans. And then you look at soccer in Europe, which is just, the term hooligan, definitely originates from that part of the world and how they conduct themselves on the field and in the stands. I know some say, well, the pandemic, we forgot how we should conduct ourselves. Yeah, that's true to a point. But then you just have some people that are just fools that just have no idea on how to conduct themselves and how you deal with it. I'm not sure. I know some would say cut off the alcohol sales. That's not going to happen. So you've got to come up with a better way and be more vigilant in having your security, and maybe you add more people on. And you know what? There's no tolerance. You cut up, you're out. There's no way you come back. You get arrested. And the problem is, in some ballparks, if you get tossed for the night, $250 fine. And then there are other places, I think it starts at $5,000. I think there should be a uniform fine across sports on this is what's going to cost you if you want to cut up. And I think you start at $5,000, and I can guarantee you'll think twice about that next beer when you throw it back and think you're gonna live a bet.
Yeah, going back to the NBA stuff, and you mentioned it too. Maybe it was 2020 that made us forget how to act, but there are so many fans out there that feel like they're entitled just because they have a ticket to do what they want. With how close fans are to some NBA players, I'm really surprised we haven't seen something really bad happen.
Well, we've come close. We've come close. We had a situation with Tommy Pham 2 weeks ago,
right,
where he got into it with a fan one night, and then another night, another guy shows up in the same seats, and then it gets beyond personal. It really gets beyond personal. And then the next day, they go after his nephew.
Yep.
On the internet, where MLB, kind of flagged it. So I think they have an idea who these people are, but something's got to be done about it. You want to talk about how bad of a player I am or whatever, my team sucks. That's cool. I get that. But when you start making it personal, you start making it racial, you start talking about family members, all bets are off.
Yeah.
And as Tommy Pham said, the only thing that separates you in the hospital is this net.
Tommy Pham's not a guy you want to mess with.
Well, he's got a track record to prove that it doesn't work well when you tangle with him.
Yeah, it's well known some of the things that he's been involved in his
the whole
life.
Strip club thing.
He's a man that's been stabbed twice.
Well, he'll tell you it's been 3 times. And I'll let it go at that. You can do the math on who the other guy got it. But the thing is, here's the thing. The deal where at the strip club, he was outside the strip club, and these guys were scuffling over his Bentley. And he was like, oh, you can take that fight somewhere else. That's my car. It was a Bentley. All right. And so one thing leads to another. And apparently they didn't know he was into martial arts, and a couple of guys go down, and here comes another guy that goes. And so before a guy stabs him in the back, there's already 3 other guys that's on the ground. So you tell me, how do you respond if you have a very expensive car, you ask them politely, whoa, not here. And then one thing leads to another. I'm probably thinking along the line of Tommy Pham. Somebody's got to go down in order for me to get their attention.
Let's I don't know how to transition from that to another.
How about let's transition to auto racing?
Oh, I wanted to ask you about the Ohtani injury and
we can do that.
Too. Yeah, I was gonna go into Ohtani.
So the Ohtani industry is a game changer because now this is a guy that may have to have another Tommy John surgery too.
Yeah.
This is a guy who, because of his velocity, is a classic example that just because you had it once doesn't mean you can't have it again. This is a guy who some thought could make as much as $500 million. I don't know what team in their right mind would pay him that kind of money with him being on the precipice of perhaps having another Tommy John surgery and missing another season. He's had quite a few injuries,
pitcher, though, but he's still going to be able to hit.
Well, to a point, because you remember Bryce Harper, it took him a while before he got back in the lineup, and he has to play first base.
And Bryce Harper wasn't able, but Bryce Harper played all the way through October. Shohei's going to be able, at some point in September, you would think maybe he just steps away and goes and gets this.
Yeah, I would think so.
It speeds up the process by about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's probably a plus for him. I just think that, the Angels tried to go all in. It just didn't work. And, that happens from time to time. But, when it's all said and done, it changes the dynamic of the offseason with regard to free agency. And, this is not a deep free agent class, okay? And I think that if you're an owner, you're going to say to yourself, I saw how teams spent $1 billion in contracts last year, and the high-end guys did not live up to the expectation. So why should I do that when I watch Tampa? I watch a lot of other younger teams compete to get into postseason, and they don't spend a fraction of what we do. Why don't we take that money and reinvest it in our development within our organization? Now, the other side of that coin says this: the reason why Tampa and Baltimore and some other fledgling teams are good is because they were terrible for so many years, and they finally got around to drafting some quality players, which in most cases were can't miss players. Okay, you'd have to be an imbecile to pass up on a Jackson Holiday and the catcher from Baltimore, right? So these guys were highly regarded by everybody. They didn't need you to validate how good they were. So when you have that situation at hand, you say to yourself, okay, well, we can go that route. But no team wants to get out of line and start over again. I had this conversation with somebody last night about the Cardinals. The Cardinals have a chance to pick like anywhere from third to fourth in the league in the draft next year. Now, we've never done that before in recent memory. So now it comes down to saying, all right, what are we looking for? Are we looking for a guy who's going to be can't miss, that can help us sooner? Or are we going to stockpile guys and bring them along slowly? I don't know what the mindset's going to be there, but they have time to figure it out.
Given what you know of the organization and just who's on the field and who's in AA, AAA, what do you think that mindset should be?
Listen, this is the Cardinals, man. This season is not something we're used to, nor do we want to repeat. I think you're closer to being competitive than some think, but it just comes down to one thing: pitching.
Yeah.
You got to find pitching. And how you get it, I don't know. You got some fledgling players that are coming up through the organization that can play the outfield. I think Jordan Walker could end up being a first baseman before it's over with. Your shortstop situation is solid. You got enough guys that can play second base, and Arenado's going to be with you for at least another 3 years. Your catching, you think you have solid. So what are you going to do? Pitching, and oh, by the way, more pitching.
Yeah. That outfield, the outfield set. Everything seems offensively like it's there for you. So it's just the arms, and the more you have. How many off seasons have we gone into it saying, they have 6 or 7 starting pitchers?
Well, we know that's not enough.
Now we're down to about 2.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take another break. We'll talk about auto racing as you wanted to just a bit ago. But first, a minute from our friends at the Painting and Decorating Foundation.
So what made you get involved in this program? mean, you had multiple options, I'm sure, but what made you think that this is something you wanted to do?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what kind of career path I wanted to take at the time, and I heard about the Painters Union and all the great things about it. Basically, they put you through this apprenticeship. It's a 4-year apprenticeship, and they teach you everything you need to know about the trade. So it was pretty hard for me to pass up once I heard that.
Well, I think mostly it was just knowing that, they're here to protect you, the union is, and knowing that I was going to be able to take my time to learn. It wasn't going to be one of those things where they're forced to, day one, jump right into it. And I think once I figured that out, I mean, I love the opportunity to grow, and I think that that's the best thing for a job.
Back here, it is the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois and Gray Bar, and driven by our friends over at Munganass St. Louis Acura. Claibs and I, we were out at Munganass St. Louis Acura just 1 week ago and talked to Clayton over there, the GM, and about all of the new cars that they have out there on the lot and all of the new cars that are being sold. And when they're being sold, more new cars, used cars, pre-owned cars are being brought in and put on the lot. Over 300 to choose from out there at 13720 Manchester. Claibs over there at Munganass St. Louis Acura.
I don't know how many other dealerships have over 300 cars to choose from. I'm sure there are, but we know about Munganass probably better than we know about a lot of other people. We know about the service. We know about the sales staff. We know about how skilled they are in making sure they find a deal for you. Multiple forms of financing, whether it's a lease or an outright purchase. But I just think the way that they've conducted business for the last 25 years just tells you, this is what they're all about. There are a lot of dealerships that come and go. I mean, they take the name off of one and put it on another. But bottom line is this: Munganass has a reputation that far exceeds a lot of dealerships in St. Louis. And as we mentioned with the selection, there's going to be something for you or for your kids or whomever in your family. Maybe need a third car. Well, why not give them an opportunity? You can go online and check them out as well. But I always like to go in and truly kick the tires on what's going to work for me in my future. So if you're looking around, you're not sure, this is a place you start. It'd probably be the place you end up at, Munganass, on both sides of the river, Alton, Illinois, and in Manchester, Missouri.
Claibs, you said you wanted to talk auto racing. What do you want to talk about? Bommarito?
I went to the Bommarito.
Yeah? How was it?
I had a ball. I was in the pit crew. And that's the one thing about the race. You can actually walk into the pit area and watch them work on cars. Now, granted, I'm not a guy that really wants to change oil in my own car if you can do that anymore. But the bottom line is the technology that's put into play and all the people that come together to put a car on the track. It's fascinating. I took some video of a car that came in, Alex Rossi, he's having an okay season. He finished 4th this weekend. He's done some Grand Prix as well. Anyway, it was a little less than 7 seconds. Tires, gas, boom, you're back out. And these guys practice this. And I knew this in the past. A lot of guys who work in pit crews used to be former football players, college football players.
Really?
One of their fueler is played at the University of Michigan. He was a lineman at the University of Michigan. I mean, there's no fat boys in the pit crew. Well, maybe one or two. But, I mean, these guys really trained to be ready for that Sunday. And there's a lot of other things that go into it well beforehand. But I think the technology and how they measure this thing down to the last drop of gas, the tires, and everything that goes into it, it is one of the most fascinating things, along with how cameras are set up where you can follow the race. It's something that if you haven't been to one in person, go to one. And what we have over in Illinois at the Bommarito 500 and everything else that Curtis Francois has brought to St. Louis on the NASCAR circuit, it is one of the true premier events we have in St. Louis. And I was fortunate to go because the Cardinals are on the road. It's my hope that I can go again because it's one of my favorite events. And I'm an open wheel guy. I don't make any claim, make any bones about it. I like open wheel and I like Formula One. NASCAR is fine. I got no problem with that. But, man, the skill for all of those drivers is something unlike anything you can imagine.
Claibs, I don't know if you had a chance to see any of the Brickyard this past weekend. Ryan Preece, not the Brickyard. What was it this past weekend down in Daytona? The race down there. Did you see the crash Saturday night down there?
Yeah. And that's the other thing, man. The danger. I give you a good example. Like the first lap of the Bomberito, there was a wreck, and the guy got out. He was okay, but your day is shot. But in this situation, these cars are built to protect the driver. I mean, we've learned a lot over the years. We don't have many fatalities on the track like we used to, but it's still dangerous. I mean, if you hit a wall going 180 miles an hour into a wall, a lot of bad things can happen. But that young man was very fortunate. And I'm sure once he gets checked out, he'll be looking for a ride next week.
Yeah, it barrel rolled. If you haven't seen it yet, if you go and you watch the video from the NASCAR race of the Daytona International Speedway this past weekend, barrel rolled over and over about a dozen times.
I hope he found his wallet in his cell phone. You think he would?
I mean, you know what? The top of the car flew off, so that thing might be around the third turn somewhere.
Oh man, it was scary. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, that's if you've seen the movie Anchorman, or not Anchorman, Talladega Nights, and they do the scene there where it flips over and it goes on forever, and it's a joke of how much it goes on forever. I mean, that was in real time.
It was scary.
The way it happened. He has been discharged from the hospital though, and it's said that he's going to race again. That he's planning on coming back sooner than later. With that. So, I mean, more power to him if he's going to get behind the wheel of a car and not have any fear after what he experienced.
That's what they do.
Can
we talk some college football?
I have it on my list. How much of week 0 did you watch?
I watched Notre Dame play Navy for a little while.
That was in Ireland.
Yeah. First of all, I know it was about the money, but Navy has no business on the field with Notre Dame, period. And as much as they tried to pump that thing up, I was like, "Come on, man, who are you kidding here?" But here's an even bigger question.
It was, what? It was a road for all of the Irish faithful. It was a vacation for them to go over to Ireland and go and watch their team play. For NBC, they had very little competition that night when it came to football, or that morning, I guess, for football.
No, that afternoon.
Yeah, so they were able to put it on against no other games because it was week 0. So people watched because they were hungry for football. They did it the right way, where people were going to go travel and people were going to watch it because it was on TV.
Okay. I just wouldn't be one of them.
I saw the highlights of it. I was like, okay, they're playing over there. I knew they had planned that game for a while. And
yeah, I mean, it's no different than when the Cardinals played the Cubs. Okay. I mean, it's an experience. Hooray for us. Let's go home.
Yeah.
So,
you get the video shot. You get the quick time lapse shot of how the field comes together for that, and yeah.
So here's my question for you: how can you, with everything that's going on in college football, coaches moving around more than ever, you have the transfer portal, the NIL that leads to the transfer portal in some cases. How can you possibly rank a team at this time of the year? Can you explain that to me? Why we have all these rankings?
You're just throwing numbers out there, so that way week 1 of the season, coming up this weekend, you have all the little numbers there, so you know.
But why?
I mean,
it's BS. It has no impact. We know we have a half a dozen teams that are going to be good because of their reputation. Alabama's going to be good. Michigan, Ohio State are going to be good. Georgia's going to be good. And there's another team, USC will be good. And then after that, why do we rank number 9 Penn State? We don't know if they're any good or not. We don't know if they can compete. So why give us this yarn of BS? Oh, they're number 9 in the country. No, they're not. Nobody. We don't know who they are.
Well, answer me this then: how does Vegas come up with their numbers for this weekend?
I have no idea, and they're misleading people as well.
They haven't even had preseason to watch. It's college football. They're going into this blind, and they're putting out it's 4.5 as the spread for this game.
And I don't get it.
So how's that work?
I don't get it. While I'm on the beef of football concerns, Missouri will stay local here. Got a quarterback issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are you playing? You have 4 non-conference games, and you put them on the schedule because you think you can beat them, right? You got South Dakota State. You have
just South Dakota,
South Dakota,
yeah.
Memphis. Who are the other ones?
No, it's South Dakota,
Memphis,
Middle Tennessee,
Middle Tennessee, Memphis,
Kansas State, and then Memphis. Yep.
So you have. I'm going to use 4 games, okay?
Vanderbilt after that, if you want to consider that a game.
Well, I'm going to get out of league play for a minute. I won't disrespect Vanderbilt that much. But why are you playing guys for a half? Why don't you have two guys that you want to look at, Brady Cook and Sam Horn, who emerged to be the two top prospects quarterback-wise. We've seen Brady Cook. Okay, serviceable player. I know he was playing hurt. Sam Horn apparently has a bigger arm and has a better understanding of the football game. So why don't you give both of them 2 games so they can game plan from the start to the finish, so they get enough reps in, so they see what it's like compared. You play a half, I play a half. Hooray for us. What happens if you don't get the ball enough in the game? What happens if you have an injury or whatever? Why don't you play them both 2 games apiece, and then the last game you play against Kansas State, and then that gets you ready for conference play?
Kansas State, as you talked about the preseason rankings, Kansas State is ranked in the preseason at number. Where are they? I just saw them up here.
They're ranked because they won a bowl game
16th.
last year. Yeah, they won a bowl game last year. And
we're going to start our.
Yeah. So I get that, but I think that would be a more efficient way to determine what you have compared to giving guys half of a game.
We are going to do our picks for the first time this week. I'll be sending them out. Are you and Howard meeting this week, doing Huddle Up with Howard?
We are doing Huddle Up. We'll do it on Friday this week because the Tigers have a Thursday night game.
All right. So our games this week, Claibs, we're doing confidence picks. So you got to rank the confidence. You get the points off of that. We are going to have LSU and Florida State on there. We're going to have North Carolina versus South Carolina. And then our third game on the list, we're going to have Colorado and TCU on there.
That's going to be interesting because everybody's going to want to pay attention to what Deion Sanders' team looks like.
TCU are 20-point favorites going up against Deion Sanders.
That's about right. That's about right.
Yeah.
TCU had a pretty good season last year. They didn't lose a lot of people. I think they lost their quarterback, though. But here's the other thing about this. Have we determined what the championship will be, and also what the loser gets?
We haven't decided that. I think we're all I'm going to send out the email today or tomorrow. I think we're all
and have suggestions.
20. Yeah, we're all throwing.
No, but
20.
have suggestions on what the winner should get for a trophy, and what the loser should get.
Yeah.
So we need to have that as well.
Yeah. But speaking of WWE just came out with belts for all 31 of the 32 NFL teams. You could get a championship belt in that with their logos all over it, starting at $550.
Do me a favor. Don't get me one for Christmas.
The thing is that so many people are going to buy those.
Jeez.
By the way, I say 31 of the 32. They put out Jacksonville Jaguars, and then they took it off the website because the Jaguars are owned by the Shad Khan
family,
who owns AEW, the competition for WWE. So that has been taken off the websites.
Well, I'm sorry. We'll get over it somehow.
Yeah. Few wrestling deaths this past week, Claibs. I know you probably don't know much about Bray Wyatt, but I'm sure you grew up watching a little bit of Terry Funk.
Terry Funk, he was the brother of Dory Funk Jr. and the son of Dory Funk Sr., great wrestling family, known for the spinning toe hold.
Yeah,
and then I think Terry used to do the abdominal stretch as well.
Yeah, later on his career became very hard, became a hardcore kind of crazier, middle-aged.
I wonder how that happened.
So yeah, he became
how
a little
was
crazier. Terry Funk. I mean, he was kicking out at 2 for a long time. I mean, there were a lot of near-death experiences for Terry Funk over his age.
Yeah, he was the last. Dory won the championship, I think, 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, he was 79 years old when he passed away.
Their dad was a really good wrestler as well.
Yeah,
great wrestling family. God rest his soul.
Yeah, Dory Funk's still alive at 82 right now. So Dory still.
That was my favorite move. You get a guy in a spinning toe hold.
Yeah,
would never fail. After wrestling at the Chase on Sunday, you get a guy out in the backyard, and here we go.
Claibs, along with good Nightingale this week. Also, it should be the final, one of the final week before the Ascension Charity Classic this week.
A walk in the fairway with Nick Ragone. Had Nick Ragone on the pregame show last night. Things are rounding into shape. All Nick wants is good weather. Everything else will take care of itself.
All right, looking forward to that. Coming up later today, it'll be Daily Cards Live right here on Claibs Online. Until then, this has been another edition of the Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Until next time, he is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick, right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. That's because the middle is the most important part. At Gray Bar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget, with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Gray Bar does that.